Yo, what up, Smashers? Here on September 12th, 2017 to bring you an update on Smash news.
You just said it, huh?
That's what all I do, fuck it.
Alright, so the first thing is a bit of conversation I've seen in the past, which is, should top players be required to attend locals? There was a few months back in the Smash 4 community where people were talking about lack of top players entering locals, and the conversation kind of resurfaced again in the Norcal Melee community. Basically what happened is a couple of members from Norcal Melee were complaining about lack of top players at local, attributing that to the decline of attendance at locals. Some players got really upset, some people went really hard, there was a couple of tweets that were kind of uncalled for, but overall the sentiment was top players need to start attending locals if they want to continue growing their scene. Top players should be fostering their scene, spending time with their local community that help build them up. There's a couple of different viewpoints and stances on this. I completely empathize with the local community. I do think that top players should be attending locals. I do think that top player attendance does help local attendance as a whole. So if you look at top players attending locals, generally the ones with more top players will attract newer players to go. I completely understand the sentiment. I think top players attending locals definitely helps grow the community. But at the same time, it's also very difficult for top players to continue to attend tournaments while they have such a hectic schedule. So just as an example, in the past month and a half, I've been traveling pretty much nonstop. On top of that, I'm a full-time streamer, so I'm doing that, and I still have to practice for tournaments, so I have to make sure that I am improving. So I do think that it's often overlooked how much time top players are really spending playing the game and keeping their mental health in check, and just doing the regular life stuff. A lot of top players still have jobs, a lot of top players still go to school, so balancing local tournaments along with that can be extremely difficult. Of course, as a top player, I'm a bit biased. But again, I do empathize with the local community wanting to have better attendance, wanting to keep growing their scene. Specifically what happened is a local member of Norcal Melee called out some of the Norcal community. It turned into a real shit show pretty fast. People were getting pissed. People were calling each other out. Overall, I think the sentiment is right. I think growing your scene obviously is the best thing that you can do to give back. But at the same time, I think it can be a lot to ask top players to attend every tournament. There was a couple of posts that went a little bit too hard in my opinion. As an example, in the Facebook group, there was a post, top players in Norcal don't go to shit because they're entitled pussies. There's a reason that people like Zaid, Nick, Rocky, Toucan, Cal, etc. are coming up and beating our own inactive top players. Fuckers are lazy and know they could just invite other top players to their houses to have fests instead of supporting the local scene. Your local scene comes first. While I do agree that your local scene should come first, at the same time, this person's not really looking at the full picture. I can look at one of my local tournaments, for example, and see just how much time I have to invest in order to go. Often, the tournament will start at 7 p.m. With SoCal traffic, that means I have to leave around 5:30, invest my full day. While I do agree that your local scene should come first, it's often really hard to see the full picture. As an example, if I wanted to go to a local here in SoCal, I could go to a local, let's say I spend 6 hours there. Realistically, I'm probably playing, say, about 8 sets. It's good practice. It helps you emulate a national tournament environment. You still get the pressure. It's hard to emulate that in friendlies. At the same time though, I could probably use 1/5 of that time and get more done than I would at the tournament. So I do think that tournaments are good for growth. It helps you advance your competitive mindset, your tournament mindset. But at the same time, I think that there is a lot more that you can do on your own. There's a lot more that you can do at home. There's a lot more that you can do just to practice on your own or practice with a partner and be more productive. I do want to say that giving back to the community is really important though. There's a lot more that we can do as top players to help our community. One of those things might be to always make sure people are aware of upcoming events, make sure we're tweeting out whatever tournament we're at. Maybe even during a bathroom break while we're streaming, we can have a slide just showing whatever upcoming tournaments are happening, just so people are more aware of them and we can get more people coming out to them. Just as a small example, there's obviously a lot more we can do. PPU ended up feeling pretty targeted throughout this whole thing. He had a couple tweets. He even went back into the group saying, "What can I do to please you?" Which I really give a lot of props to Kevin for. A lot of people would have just ignored the whole drama, but he handled it pretty well. I think he even ended up going to a tournament that same day So that's pretty cool. Props to Kevin. Shroomed even felt called out himself. He got into the whole mix. He responded a little bit more aggressively than PPU did, which I found kind of funny. But in response to one of the call-out tweets, Shroom directly responded with, "I don't owe you or anyone else my time, Patrick. Ironic you called me the entitled fuck. Maybe if you got better, I'd actually care to play you." I found this response super funny. Dewan didn't have to respond like that, but I appreciate it. I appreciate the honesty. I think Shrooms is keeping in mind how he came up, how when he was coming up as a top player or as a nobody, he didn't have top players to play against. People wouldn't play against him, and he had to earn that title. And that's kind of the same background that a lot of us came from. We didn't really have people to play against. Nobody wanted to play with us because we're bad. And then eventually we got better and better, and we grinded and we worked hard until we got to the point where people wanted to play against us, or they had to play against us to keep up. I understand wanting more top players at your tournament so your tournaments can keep growing and people can keep getting better. I completely understand that. At the same time though, I can empathize with the top players who don't want to go to tournaments. It's really tough. Sometimes traveling so much just sucks the life out of you. You don't really want to do much while you're traveling so much. You want to, spend your time at home and really appreciate that. You want to spend time doing things you love. You want to spend time doing things outside of Smash from time to time. So I agree with both sentiments, but again, I do think as top players, we should be doing more for the community. We could probably find other ways to give back, even if it's not attending a local, maybe advertising it, maybe even making sure that people know it's happening. I think putting more effort towards that will ultimately lead to more community growth. In other news, Armada has officially stepped down from the Melee and On Me Ruleset Committee. If you haven't heard what that is, it's a panel of 25 Melee players who have come together to help find a good rule set, not only for Melee, but for the community as a whole. The committee has all sorts of top players and figureheads involved in it, including people like D1, Drugfox, Hacks, Leffen, Taffokins, Vro, Cactuar, Gimmer, Wobbles, MacD, Duck, Hugs, Hungrybox, Amsa, Practical Tass, Axe, Sleepy K, Armada, Reno, and PPMD. In terms of a variety of top players and figureheads, there's all sorts of people involved. But it was missing one thing, which is female representation. So when the list was released, there was a bit of a backlash from the female community, which is completely understandable and I completely agree with. I do think that there should be female representation involved. And of course, there was also a lot of Twitter shitheads getting involved too, being against it, not really trying to understand why they should be involved. Just to say it, it's important that females are involved in the community. I think what most people don't understand is that this isn't strictly a Melee rule set. This isn't deciding are legal stages or should box be allowed. It's more so to foster the community, make sure we're on the right track for growth, and make sure everybody has a healthy environment at events. So in a committee like this, I do think it's really important to have female representation. I think it's important to have people of all types be involved just to make sure that we can all come to rational conclusions amongst each other. So Armada had previously made a video saying that he wants female representation on the committee. He said that he would be willing to step down, and he did it. Armada tweeted, "For people saying someone else should have given up the spot, guess what? No one did, which could have been for many different reasons. For people that like the idea of more diversity but dislike I was the one that left, sometimes you gotta be the change you wanna see. Don't regret my decision at all. I believe long-term having a girl in this could lead to something great." I think that the Ruleset Committee is going to be making a post on what's going on exactly, who's gonna fill Armada's place, what's going to be changed. Overall, I really praise Armada for what he did, give him a lot of respect. It's great to have community figureheads or people in the eye of the community really want to make change, really be vocal about it. So props to Armada, and we'll see what happens with the rule set. Emily Sun also had a lot to say about this. If you don't know her, she's one of the main tournament organizers in New York. She helps run Smash Sisters. She's done a lot for the female Smash community. She wrote a TwitLonger, which I'll have linked in the description below. It's definitely a good read. In the TwitLonger, she says, "Women represent a small but growing demographic in the Smash scene. Roughly, we've seen 40 to 60 women at majors with 1,000 people, and a growing number as volunteers and tournament organizers. While the community as a whole has been welcoming, there remain pockets of sexist groups and unintended subconscious sexism littered among us. Imagine my horror reading through the comments about this. I've never seen a girl play Melee or at a tournament at all. Name a single qualified woman who can do this. Keep gender politics out of Smash. Like, holy shit, how fucking disheartening it has been. We're not asking you to pick up a random Smash girl and put her on because she's a girl. We're asking to go through the many qualified candidates who have contributed to the scene so that we have visibility to show that women are welcome and represented." She also said, "Finally, it's okay if you don't understand what it's like to be a woman in the scene, but we just ask that you trust us in that it's different, that it's important for us to have a voice. that representation matters to us. We can only be an inclusive and welcoming community if we show up in the leadership. I think that quote alone says enough. We obviously need female representation in the community and helping make these changes as well. Overall, I think that both of these topics are really good for the community. I think getting the conversation started is always the most important part. Whether it goes from top players and locals or female representation in the community, I think both of these topics will definitely foster growth long term. Let me know your opinions in the comments. I'm always down to hear them. I always read through everything. So if you have an opinion on it, let me know. I'm down to hear it, and I'll see you next time.